Okay, well, it's Wednesday, and that means it's Ten of Swords Day, which is kind of every day for a while. But now we've got Ten of Swords, Part 12 of 22. This is X-Men. This is Jonathan Hickman writing this one. So, yeah, you're not supposed to see one title as more central to the whole story than others, but this is Hickman. It is Hickman and Teeny Howard's events. So, in theory, this one is going to be impactful. When we last left off, Apocalypse was surprised to discover that Genesis, his wife, was actually Annihilation, the big villain he was going to have to face. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've got Ten of Swords, Part 12 of 22, X-Men number 14, Jonathan Hickman, Lintel Francis Yu, that's right, on the art, and Mohamed Asrar. I know the right way to say that name, and I screw it up every time. Anyway, this title is basically where we are. We just had Stasis, and that was the champions for Krakoa, the X-Men team, basically making their way to Saturnine's domain. And meanwhile, the members of Arakko, the villains in this, the ones who are gathering up their own swords, have also come, and it all led to a big confrontation where Apocalypse was shocked to discover that his wife, Genesis, is actually the leader of the Arakko forces and has fused or been consumed by Annihilation, this mask that is an elder god. And what does that all mean? So this issue picks up immediately from where the last one left off. Apocalypse is heartbroken, having made this stunning discovery. His wife that he had longed for in theory thousands of years while he's been trapped on Earth, is now a villain, and he's in theory going to have to face her. He is wandering the gardens when he is interrupted by Genesis, who has removed the mask, and he is contemplating everything that he is up to. And so she kind of taunts him a little bit. You're a man of peace now. Have you fallen so far? And Apocalypse points out she's wielding the Twilight Blade, the blade that severed the kingdom and ultimately led to their separation. And she points out, this thing is dangerous, but it's certainly not the most dangerous thing in this garden. Inferring that it's her. So Apocalypse sees this as a challenge. And she insists, no, Genesis, we're here just to talk and kind of fill in the blanks of this story. And so basically, the Too Long Didn't Read from here on out is a catching you up to speed, some exposition on how all this stuff happened. And it's going to borrow heavily from X-Men number 2, which introduced this whole idea of Arakko and Krakoa being separated and the fact that this gate was sealed. And the summoner had told Apocalypse this when he arrived on Krakoa, and now this is a somewhat of a retelling. So we're going to use the same imagery, in many cases the same art, but we're going to change the words on it to now tell it from a more honest perspective, or Genesis's perspective. So we're transported back to what all happened. Okara was the one land of mutants where this ancient world existed, and then suddenly the Twilight Sword of the enemy, the sword that Genesis now wields, came with the Amanith, which were, let's call them demon monster-like things, basically a horde of angry villains intent only on destruction. So Apocalypse and Genesis basically push them back, but in doing so, they separate the land, and they put a gate together that Apocalypse goes to, leaving some defenders behind. And as we saw a couple issues ago, part of the telling here was that Genesis found Apocalypse weak or basically not strong enough to continue the assault against Amanith. And so she and the other 4 horsemen and the other members of Arakko stayed behind while Apocalypse went to raise a mutant army. And this was the logic behind why Apocalypse is testing survival of the fittest, etc. He's trying to raise this army to be able to fight back this horde, which is a bit of a retcon, or maybe more than a bit. At any rate, as the gate seals, the mutant army, the mutants on that side kind of panic. There's terrible violence, but for centuries, for thousands of years, the horde was pushed back. And then we do know this part of the story, things started to fall. They go briefly into one of the other champions of Araco, the White Sword, and how he was able to resurrect to, fight this horde constantly, to rage against that horde. And he killed scores of mutants, but it also started to warp and change him. And so Iska, the Unbeaten, who had abandoned Araco and Genesis because she cannot be beaten, so therefore the way she was not beaten was but to take the other side, basically invites Genesis to come parley with Annihilation. So they go there and they meet, Genesis meets Annihilation, and they have a big old sword battle, and Genesis wins. Genesis is actually able to defeat the being that wore the Annihilation mask. However, in doing so, it was a curse. Whoever defeats the helm must claim the helm. Whoever wears that crown controls the land. So, basically inflicted with this curse, Genesis had to step back and watch. For 100 years, she refused to wear the helm and keep the demons in check. So the demons continued to attack the land and cause great havoc and mutants dying and everything else. And finally, some mutants were started to puncture holes in reality back out to, in theory, Krakoa, or basically everything that they had spent the last 1,000 years defending against these demon hordes was now put in jeopardy because sorcerers were starting to break holes through reality and the demons could escape. So at that point, she knew that the old ways were lost, and she put the golden helm on her head. She surrendered to Ameneth, and she allowed the Elder God to take over her. She said she thought to control it and dominate it, but she failed. Annihilation marched the horde into Araco and surrendered the golden helm, as did our children, as did the whole of the land. And because Annihilation wants conquest, they continued to basically raise the land, now under control of Genesis, and went on to Dryador and are looking forward to Krakoa. So that then fulfills the flashback of what was going on. Apocalypse notes, you can fight it. You're the strongest person I know. And Genesis says, no one can fight it. That's ridiculous. I now fight for it. It wants everything. So she wants everything. Most of all, she wants Krakoa. So she's been completely corrupted at this point by the Annihilation, Elder God, and this mask, or whatever else happened. And basically, this whole conversation has been a bit of a warning that the two are going to meet on the battlefield, and they are going to basically do battle. She mocks him a little bit, saying, you have made with soft hands on a soft earth. These are your mutants, and we are warriors. We are born and bred in battle. And that's basically what we're after. So that, in effect, is our issue. This issue is really two characters. It's Genesis and Apocalypse. It's a retelling of the history of kind of what went on. And it's this promise of a threat. We haven't gotten to the sword fight yet. That is coming at some point, but not in this issue. So this was kind of the revelation of these two and how they come together, this bigger storyline here. And we end with the reminder of make more mutants, destroy your enemies, defend this broken land. This mirrors kind of both cultures. Araku also had the same general idea of being able to allow mutantdom to flourish, but in a very different, dramatically different way. And so we learn a little bit more about how they're prisoners in their own land, and and a little bit of a seer. Ideal, the daughter of Ideal, son of Ideal, seer of the generation, gave one last prophecy before she is silenced by a vile engineer. The words were as follows: only under the black moon will the two become one. A white light will judge them, and a red land will see them split forever. And that is, in theory, maybe the past, the future, both. That's how it all goes. But that's our issue. So this was chapter 12. We have 22 chapters in this, so we have about 10 issues left. We're going to get to Marauders here in a moment, which promises to have the combatants eating dinner. And then the week after, we get another issue of Marauders. So this week we get X-Men and Marauders, and the following week we get another Marauders, Excalibur, and Wolverine all coming together. And it's starting to feel like we're not getting to the sword fighting for maybe a while. I think the general thought process was Stasis was going to get everybody onto the table, and then these comics would be the fights that would play out inside these comics. But it kind of at least feels to some extent that maybe the fights are coming in Destruction. because you're going to have 2 issues of Marauders dealing with the dinner party. Then you have Excalibur, which kind of feels like it's going to deal with the shock ending of Marauders, which I won't spoil here, but that review is going up in about an hour or so. And then you've got Wolverine X-Force, and those two are likely, based on how they're positioned, to kind of tie into each other. Similarly to how Marauders kind of ended in a cliffhanger, I would be quite unsurprised if Wolverine number 7 also ended in a cliffhanger, is kept up in X-Force number 14. And then in Hellions, number 6, we're going to see what's going on with Hellions, and we've got Cable. So it's unclear when the actual sword fighting is taking place, but you're certainly get a lot of world building, you've got a lot of history. So depends on what you're into and in for. I think you should go in eyes open that you're still getting a lot of world building and you're not getting the tournament. So if you're into the world building, good shape. If you're expecting the tournament, you're probably pretty ticked at this point. Anyway, what did you think of this issue? Did you read it? Are you interested? Are you following along with Ten of Swords? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, but most importantly, thanks for listening.